Hi there, this is Craig. This is another mindful podcast. This one is about thinking, and it's about sitting with our thinking, which is something that we don't really do. Most of the time, we're in our thoughts, we're in our head, and we're just acting out from what our head is telling us to do or to not do. So we find sometimes our thinking is useful to us or it's not useful to us. When it's useful for us, it's when we're thinking positively or we're having a gratitude for the moment that we're in, or we're actually doing something that we can control in the here and now. So you might have a thought of being hungry, and obviously you can fix that thought pretty quickly by going and getting some food. So things that we can control and things that we like to do, we think about those things, and there's no problems with any of that. Sometimes problems arise when our thoughts are about us or about people, or they become more judgmental, more negative about things. Why is this happening to me, for example? Or I can't believe that that person said this. Those kind of things are our ego mind, our thoughts, our resistance to what is going on. And so, if we're in these thoughts for long periods of time, or we're dwelling on something, or we're judging something, we're no longer in the moment and we're no longer mindful. We're kind of in our heads. And we believe what's in our thoughts. We think they're true a lot of the time. And a lot of the time, we're not even aware of them. We have thousands of thoughts every day, and we're not aware of each individual thought. It needs a lot of mindfulness and a lot of awareness to sink into what it is that we are thinking and to choose what's good for us. So a lot of our thoughts are kind of based on our past. They're based on our conditioning. Things that we might not like is due to we've never liked it, or there's been problems with these things before, and it resurfaces in our thinking. And certainly people who struggle with confidence, doubting their ability and are feeling a bit sort of lacking in something, often beat themselves up with their thoughts. They call themselves names or call themselves stupid. All of this isn't actually true. It's just a kind of a label that we attach to ourselves subconsciously. And it may have come from somebody else or something deep within us. We're not really stupid. We're not really, what our thoughts are saying. So it's good to notice our thinking, because then you can bring your awareness and your rationality to them. You can see them for what they are. So if you notice a thought that's calling yourself a name or beating yourself up for something you did, then you can notice and see that for what it is, which is kind of a judgment on a past act, or something that's not present right now. And you have a choice then. You can think, well, do I need to keep thinking about this thing? Do I need to keep beating myself up over it? Or do I give myself kindness? Do I bring compassion to this moment? How is it that I'm feeling? Can I go into my body, come away from my thinking, and be with what's present? And that may be frustration or annoyance at something that's happened, and that's totally fine. We breathe with these emotions. There's another podcast in this list about sitting with emotions as well. So, sitting with thoughts is noticing what it is we're thinking about and then making a choice about the thoughts that are useful to you and letting go, non attaching to the thoughts that aren't good for you. And you find if you practice this, the more kind of negative thoughts and judgmental thoughts that we think about things, especially ourselves, the more we let go of these things, we start changing our way. We become happier, we become more present, we're less worried about things. It's actually a very profound practice. So, what we're going to do is we'll do a meditation where we'll sit with our thinking. So, I'm actually not going to say anything in this meditation. I've got a little bell that I'll hit to mark the beginning, and I'll hit it again to mark the end. But just for a few minutes in the quiet, just see what you're thinking about. Just notice what the thoughts are. You may find when you first start this that there's no thoughts. There's blankness, and that's fine. But after a wee while, I'm sure that a thought will come. So start noticing them. Just sort of observe them. You are the observer. You're watching the thoughts. You're not attaching to any of them. So don't get caught up in your thoughts. Be present. If you find that you're getting caught up in your thoughts and you notice, then have a breath, come back to yourself, and then start to notice the thoughts again. So let's see how this goes. Just watch them coming by, going away again. You'll get an insight into what you're thinking about. Here we go. Okay, so that was just a few minutes of being in the quiet, just noticing. So you may have found that you might not have been thinking about much at all. You might have been quite pleasantly surprised in that you're just being able to sit and be okay. So that's amazing if that is what happened. You may have noticed that there were thoughts. You may have noticed that some thoughts started creating more thoughts around the first thought. You might have thought of something to do, for example, and then started to think about what it was that you needed to do. You may have just noticed your thinking and just smiled at it and let it go on its way. There's many different ways that thoughts kind of come and how we interpret them and how we let them go or not let them go. So each time you do a meditation like that, where you're just looking at your thoughts, it can be different each time. And you could be one time you might not have hardly any thoughts, and another time you might have loads. It just depends on your state of being at the moment you do the meditation, just how many thoughts you have. You often find if you're more anxious or more stressed about something that there's more thoughts than normal. So it's quite good to notice sort of how many thoughts you're having or what the thoughts are about. It's good to choose the ones that are good for you. You might notice thoughts that are thinking about a future, a worry about a future, or you might be mulling over something that's happened in the past. So you're beginning to notice that you're a past thinker or a future thinker. These can give you clues into your emotional sort of state. So you may also have noticed you're thinking creating emotions in you, which is, the mind and body are one. So when you think, your body can automatically respond in a feeling or an emotion. You can think happy thoughts or sad thoughts, for example, and you feel that emotion. So it's interesting to start to notice, and that's what mindfulness is all about, is just noticing. We're not fixing the thoughts, we're not judging the thoughts, because that's more thinking. If we are thinking something and afterwards we think, oh, I shouldn't have thought that, or that was a bit harsh of me to think those things, then you're judging your thinking, and it's just creating more thinking. So it's good to let go of these things. Thoughts are just thoughts. They don't become reality until you sort of attach to them and focus on them too much. So the ones that aren't serving you or serving anyone else, just see if you can let them go. Just watch them go like clouds in a sky. You find the more that you're comfortable by sitting in the quiet and just noticing your thinking. You may have found that a bit of a struggle just sitting there. You may have had thoughts about, why am I just sitting here? This is silly, or I need to go on and carry on doing things. Again, that's thinking, and it's noticing for you that there's an uncomfortableness perhaps with just sitting or having a moment's pause. Some people can struggle with those things. So give yourself kindness at all times. Be gentle with whatever it is that comes up in your mind. Your thoughts aren't you, they're just part of you. So we can always observe our thoughts, and we're always just one thought away from having a positive thought or letting go of a thought. So if something's really bothering you and you catch it, you can perhaps let go of the thought and come back to your moment, and you may feel better straight away. It's always good, if we're in deep levels of thinking, to have pauses and breaks. If we're problem solving or analyzing something too much, it can start causing some tension. So it is good if there's things that you can't fix, can't control in the moment. Don't think about them too much. You can put plans in place for when you get to them. If they're in the past and there's no way you can ever fix it or control it, then the best way is to let go of those thoughts, because it will give you some sanity and some help. But sometimes that's hard, in which case it's good to go to the feeling and be with the feeling with kindness. If there's something that's made you sad in the past, be with the sadness. Breathe with that. Give yourself kindness, and things will shift in time. They always do. So that's the podcast. I hope it's been useful or insightful. So as I say, there's plenty more here, and I'll be doing a few more. So I'll speak to you again another time. Thanks very much for listening.